Let's go over a few of the verses about the Feast of the Weeks and the Day of Pentecost, just so that you can become familiarized with it. We'll have a chance to talk about it tomorrow as well. I just wanted to begin today because it is the Day of Pentecost 1,996 years ago. First of all, we have here, not this verse. Okay, we can go back or not. Okay, so yeah, celebrate the festival of weeks with the first fruits. Remember the first fruits? That represents the resurrection. And then that first fruits began the Feast of the Weeks. The 50 days, you had to count 7 weeks, and that equals 49. And then on the 50th, you celebrate the Day of Pentecost. We have other verses here that are more explicit. Here's the first fruits. The Lord said to Moses, "Speak to the Israelites and say to them, when you enter the land I'm going to give you, reap its harvest, bring to the priest a sheaf of the first grain of your harvest." Remember, this is wheat. This is not barley. Barley is before that. This is wheat representing, yes, the first fruits and weeks and Pentecost. He is to wave the sheaf before the Lord, so it will be accepted on your behalf. The priest is to wave it on the day after the Sabbath. The day after the Sabbath is that Sunday, resurrection. Okay, I'm going to skip these for now. And Festival of Weeks, from the day after the Sabbath. What is that? First fruits. The day you brought the sheaf of the wave offering. Count off 7 full weeks. 7 times 7 equals 49. And that's why it tells you count off 50 days up to the day after the Sabbath, and then present an offering of new grain to the Lord. And this is what? Pentecost, the 50 days. This was weeks, all those 7 weeks, and on the 50th, that is the day of Pentecost. And then it tells you what rituals, and all these rituals represent something. These rituals represent that it's the plan of God. He harvests us. The reason why he came and died for our sins is so that we can be harvested and have a relationship with him forever in eternity. But the Jews rejected him, and therefore Pentecost represents the beginning of the church age, and therefore the 5th cycle of discipline to the Jews. Of course, any Jew in this dispensation can become a believer, and they can be in union with Christ, except they have no special benefits as Jews. We are all in union with Christ in this dispensation. We are now the new spiritual species in the body of Christ. Okay. Another verse I think I have. Yes, Deuteronomy 16:18. Festival weeks. Count off, again, 7 weeks from the time you begin to put the sickle to the standing grain. It's wheat. Then celebrate the festival weeks to the Lord your God by giving a freewill offering in proportion to the blessings the Lord has given you. Okay? And there are more feasts over here. And I think that's it with regards to the verses. Okay, I'll go over this tomorrow. Now let's go back to the doctrine of the cosmic system. And the reason why we're going over the doctrine of the cosmic system is because of this verse right here. What is it? Let's begin at verse 4. Because the weapons of our army are not fleshly, cosmic. You do not fight the cosmic system with your own sin nature, with your own works, with anything of the cosmic system. But they are divine power weapons belonging to God. They are God's weapons himself. It's his own power. And those problem-solving devices are his own problem-solving devices. That's the way he can tolerate us sinful human beings and still love us. We use the same problem-solving devices that he uses. The love that he has, that's a problem-solving device. Grace, that's a problem-solving device as well. Every time he looks at you, he looks at Christ. That's a problem-solving device, doctrinal orientation. He has a system of doctrine, and he looks at you according to the lens of doctrine. That's his thinking. Now he shares it with you. Because the weapons of our army are not fleshly, cosmic, but they are divine power weapons belonging to God, face to face with the demolition of strongholds inside of your soul. Demolishing logismos, reasonings, cosmic to thinking, hatred towards the truth, and every lofty thought that exalts itself against the knowledge of God. And this is, lofty thought is arrogance, preoccupation with self. Cosmic number 1. Then, taking captive every thought, both cosmic 2 thoughts and cosmic 1 thoughts, all human viewpoint, to the obedience of Christ. And obedience of Christ is not possible, entirely possible, until you reach gate 8. But every single day as you're advancing, you're going through tests, and this applies to you already. You apply Bible doctrine as you're suffering that pressure, that adversity, or a little bit of prosperity that serves as pressure, and you apply doctrine. And every time you finish off that test and you look back in retrospection, make sure you look at it objectively. Don't dwell too much in the past, but yes, you can examine yourself and see what you did wrong. Make sure you captivate all those loose disobedient thoughts. Go back and correct them. Again, objectively. Don't become subjective and fall into a guilt complex or become bitter over what they did to you. Just keep applying doctrine to it. So Cosmic 2 and Cosmic 1. Why did we begin with Cosmic 1 instead of Cosmic 2 when Cosmic 2 was mentioned first? Because in order for us to understand it, we begin with Cosmic 1. It all begins with arrogance, Satan's original sin. And now, I'm not going to go back and recap, but I will go back to Gate 1. Gate 1 of the of the cosmic system, and that is motivational evil. It begins with preoccupation with self. All those mental attitude sins that have arrogance in it. Yes, that's motivational evil. And then once you remain in there and you continue advancing through all those gates, all those other gates are functional evil. It begins with your thinking, and then you start functioning on that thinking. First you think, you're motivated, then you make decisions, then you take action. Okay. So gate 1, once again, Cosmic 1. I'm not going to go over all of this. I'll refer you back to yesterday's lesson. So gate 1, I'm just going to read it. Motivational evil. It deals with mental attitude sins, all based on the sins of pride or arrogance. These sins of motivational arrogance include pride, jealousy, bitterness, implacability, hatred, vindictiveness, operation overthink, fear, worry, anxiety. Of course, fear has its own complex, and it's blasphemous. Fear is terrible, and it hinders your spiritual life. Okay, anxiety, revenge motivation, revenge modus operandi, guilt complex, self-pity. There's other things that I did not mention, such as depression, if the subjective one. I know that there's a physiological cause for depression, but there's also depression in terms of arrogance, going back and not being able to forgive yourself, not being able to have met a arrogant standard in the past. Yes, that's arrogance as well. And there's more. Vanity, pride, conceit was the original sin of Halil, Lucifer. These sins also became the original sins of the woman in the garden. She ate up, she was duped, and to this day a woman is easily duped. Us men were easily duped by a woman with, acting like a sweet, innocent girl, and we're stupid because we hardly know anything about women, especially at this generation. But women easily are duped by both man and woman. Man, the guy that comes with eloquent words, emotional intelligence, so to speak. And a woman, she's duped by, oh, I like your dress. I love your hair. It's so cute. Oh my gosh, thank you, and all that. And so you easily fall for both genders. None of us are exempted from this. We can all easily be duped by Satan, so beware. Apply Bible doctrine. So she became bored in the garden and fell for the serpent's lie. She thought that the lie was the way to better the perfect environment. Does that sound familiar? If we had more women involved in this, we can better this and we can solve this. Yeah. From the arrogance complex rises an abnormal satisfaction with oneself, while unsatisfaction with everyone. I forgot to put the opposite of this. Arrogance can also lead to extreme subjective unsatisfaction with yourself, and an extreme respect, exaggerated threatening, being threatened by other people. And why is that? Why do they become so unsatisfied with themselves? Because they hold to an arrogant standard. Now, all the men told this little guy that he must do this and do that in order to become a real man. He must start getting drunk at this age. He must have slept with these amount of women. He must, etc. I'm exaggerating, but you get the point. And if he does not meet that arrogant standard, then yes, that can express extreme unsatisfaction with self, extreme unhappiness, a sense of inferiority, and yes, you're on your way to neurosis. And so that's also the opposite for women as well. All the ladies are doing this, and they're telling you should do this, you must be doing that. No, society tells them they must do this, and in order for you to be strong and be a real woman, you must be a femme fatale or whatever. And of course, not everyone has the ability to be a femme fatale. And even those femme fatales are very weak because they're arrogant themselves, even though they portray to have a facade of strength. And so she falls short from that femme fatale, and she feels extremely insecure, ugly, and she cries, etc. And she's extremely unsatisfied with herself. So it is definitely the opposite can occur. Arrogance goes both ways. There are people who spend all their life comparing themselves to other people. Welcome to the real world. If you're going to be arrogant, you're going to need people to use them as the object to increase your arrogance, and therefore there's going to be a lot of comparing, subjective comparison. Arrogance is the most basic motivational sin and is the basis of both moral and immoral degeneracy. Christians, degeneracy does not just fall into morality, it's also moral. In fact, a lot of moral types become psychotics, and that's why we have a lot of Christian psychotics nowadays. The increase of degeneracy in a society is caused by the increase of arrogance in the people of that society. Arrogance and degeneracy are both coterminous. They depend on each other. Arrogance produces inconsistencies and wide emotional swings between self-righteousness and self-pity. Arrogance is easily deceived and is vulnerable to flattery. It is hypersensitive, and therefore it gets hurt or threatened very easily and reacts. Sometimes there are those who are so arrogant, I did not put this here, that you cannot harm them. They're just too high up in the clouds. And whatever you tell them, whatever truth, they cannot see it, so you cannot hurt them because they're all the way up there, kind of like a psychopath ruler that thinks he's way up there, and you could tell him truths, and you could tell him you're this and you're doing this wrong, and he's not going to see it, so you cannot hurt that arrogance. You can get to him, but it's going to take more knowledge of him and who he is and his past. So yeah, it is very hypersensitive while being very insensitive towards other people. Arrogance makes you become very hypersensitive about what people think and say about you, but at the same time you become very insensitive towards their feelings and their emotions and their thoughts. Can you see the inconsistency in arrogance? An arrogant boss that's very hypersensitive about what people are saying, what his underlings are thinking about him, but then he's just so insensitive to use his power in an abusive way and hurt his underlings. That's the arrogance. It's also leads you to being a psychopath. We'll define what psychopath is right now, because definitions do change, especially in modern psychology. And therefore gets hurt or threatened very easily and reacts. When arrogance is put under pressure, when it's threatened, it gives rise to mental attitude sins, the seesaw effect. So here's the arrogant person in the cosmic system thinking that he's made it and he's done and he's all that he can be, and then here comes you in the divine power sphere. And then you push that arrogance down, you threaten that arrogance, and down arises what? Up arises jealousy, bitterness, hatred, the sins of the tongue. You malign the person. You look for mistakes in that person so as to put him down, and do that in front of others as well. Arrogance eliminates the right priorities and establishes a false scale of values. So there are no priorities. Everything is just you. The arrogance of accomplishment is a system of blasphemy. Now, remember, your accomplishments might be legitimate. You might have worked hard and gotten something. But if you become arrogant about it, you've lost. And it becomes blasphemous, especially in the spiritual life. The arrogance of accomplishment is a system of blasphemy in Cosmic One that motivates the believer to remove the glory from God's hands and put it in his own hands. Here are a few verses: Proverbs 16:18, Proverbs 11:2, Proverbs 29:23, Isaiah 13:11, James 3 verses 14 to 15.